I broke an Appalachian rule I was told as a kid. Welcome back to Creepy Crochet and Creepy Pasta. Let's get into today's scary story. If you grow up around here, you learn certain rules. Don't whistle at night, don't answer something that calls your name from the woods, and if you hear someone you love outside your window after dark, don't look. My grandmother used to say that last one like it wasn't superstition, like it was a seatbelt. You look, she'd say, and it knows you can see it. I always thought she meant coyotes or bears. I don't anymore. It was 1:47 a.m. when I heard my mom's voice outside my bedroom window. Soft, calm. Hey, baby. My stomach dropped immediately. My mom lives 40 minutes away. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no texts. Then it came again. Closer to the glass this time. Open the window. Same voice, same tone. But something about it felt flattened, like someone doing an impression. I stayed still, didn't answer. That's another rule. Then it said something only she would know, a nickname she hasn't used since I was 10. Come on, just look at me. I told myself it was stress, lack of sleep, auditory hallucination, anything but what my grandmother meant. The voice shifted slightly. Why won't you look at me? Still soft, still patient. That made it worse. Then it said, you always used to look for monsters under your bed. There aren't any under there. Something scraped lightly against the siding, right beneath my window, and I broke the rule. I looked. She was standing at the edge of the yard, just past the tree line, wearing my mom's face, but wrong. Too tall, shoulders too narrow, arms hanging just a little too long. Her head tilted slightly, like it wasn't used to sitting on that neck. The face was almost perfect. Almost. The smile stretched too far back. Her eyes weren't focused on me. They were fixed on the reflection in the glass, watching herself, adjusting. When our eyes finally met, her expression changed instantly. Not confused, not angry, delighted. Her mouth opened wider than it should have. She started laughing. High, sharp, wrong, and said, I got you, in a shrill voice. Then she stepped backward, not turning, not blinking, just sliding into the trees, still smiling. I don't remember grabbing my phone. I just remember calling my mom. She picked up on the second ring. Hello? She sounded half asleep. Normal. Mom? My voice was shaking. I think I just had a nightmare. Silence. Not the kind where someone's thinking, the kind where someone is listening. Mom? A soft breath cracked through the speaker. Then, very quietly, I'm inside. The whisper wasn't tired, it wasn't confused, it sounded close, right next to me, and then it laughed. Not loud, not sharp, a thin, careful laugh, like it was trying not to wake someone up. The call ended. The house was completely silent, no footsteps or doors opening, no breathing, nothing. That's what scares me the most. Because my grandmother didn't just say, don't look. She said, looking is the same as opening the door. And I looked.
Good morning, you guys. So I've been seeing a lot of people do story times on like the spooky things that have happened to them, and this is not my typical content, but I do have a few stories that I want to share. So I'm going to tell you a series of stories in this video. And I'm going to apologize now. I am a wonderful storyteller in person, but online and to a camera, I'm pretty sure I suck ass. It's just that this is very unnatural, so bear with me if I stumble over my words and whatever. So the first story happened in 2003. I was about 13 years old. My little sister was 12. She and I were next door helping our neighbor pick weeds out of the ground. So Providence is all concrete, but we were helping him pick like the weeds from in between the cracks, if you will. They were elderly people. He was very specific about how he wanted his stuff, so we helped him sometimes. So the house that he lived in was a 3-family home. He lived on the first, his brother lived on the second, and there was a woman and her husband named Jean. She was named Jean. The husband, I don't remember his name. They lived on the third. And I think it's worth mentioning that we had a really good relationship with everyone that lived in that home, so we became very familiar with them and their routines. And Jean would always be at her window hanging clothes on this like clothesline that attached from her window to like this pole in the backyard. And whenever I'd see her or hear her out there, I would run out and just start chit-chatting with her. So this day I'm back there picking the weeds out of the ground, and all of a sudden I look up and I see what I think is Jean, and she is standing there. I will mention that the size of the window was about half the size of a regular window. And so I look up, I see what I think is Jean. She's standing there. And she's just looking down at me. And I look up at her and I go, she doesn't wave back. I'm like, I don't like that. Hi. Nothing. And so I called my sister over and I said, I see Jean up at the window, but she's not saying anything to me. She's not even waving at me. And my sister goes, "Hi, Jean." And Jean doesn't respond. And then all of a sudden, she starts moving back and disappearing. Now I think back on that day, and I vividly remember how sunken in her eyes looked. They were dark. I couldn't see anything. She did wear glasses, but there may have been glasses, I don't remember, but I remember the hollows of her eyes. They were dark. It was very dark in the house, so all I could see was a silhouette. But she had on this white gown. And the funny thing about that moment is that I could see her entire body. I could see her entire body. And remember, I said that window was about half the size of a regular window. And so it's almost as if time or something in the Matrix glitched or warped. I always called it warping, but it's almost as if something warped and I was able to see or visualize her entire body, because I saw from the top of her head down to where her feet should have been, but I didn't see feet. I saw a gown. Like I said, she was wearing a white gown. So my sister and I, feeling very perturbed, we run inside my mom's house and we're like, "Mom, we see Jean at the window and she's just not saying hi to us. She won't say hi to us." And I don't know why we decided to be little fucking tattletales like that. But I guess we were really just shaken up, and that's really all we could formulate was just Jean isn't answering us. And it's almost as if my mom knew. But she looks at us and her face just goes fucking white. And she says, "Go to your room." And we're like, okay, so we run. We knew something was off, you guys. We knew something was off. And so we could hear her and my dad talking in the kitchen. And then about 30 minutes later, she calls us in. She sits us down in front of her. But she's being very just like gentle. And she's holding us and she says, "I don't think that was Jean." I said, "What do you mean?" "What do you mean?" She says, "You know what? I actually can't remember anything after that point. I think I was so shooken up that I literally cannot remember, but I'm going to ask her." Anyway, but I do remember her saying and holding, she was like holding us and she was like, "I don't think that was Jean." Anyway, this particular story happened within like a week or two of school starting. So I was starting my first year in high school. At the end of the day, on our first day of high school, my mom shows up and we're like, I usually take the bus from like Mount Pleasant down to where I used to live. So her showing up was just rare. So I get in the car and she says, "I just have something to tell you." And I said, "Okay." She's like, "Jean died." And I said, "When?" And she said, 2 weeks ago. And that's funny because I saw her a week ago at the fucking window. And my mom, as much as she doesn't want to admit it or like to admit it because she's a very religious woman, she's very Catholic, she is a knower or a seer or a something. But after I said, there's no way, she's like, "Yeah, she was dead when you saw her at that window. That wasn't her, that was her spirit." I couldn't sleep for a solid year after that. Shortly after this news, I was downstairs in my room watching TV and I hear my sister coming down and she's like, "Kayla, Kayla, Kayla." She's calling out for me. And I tell her I'm in the room. She comes in and she's like, "I just saw Jean walk from one side of the room, another room, to like vanishing into the fucking wall." And I'm like, this is it. That was it. It disturbed me for so long. And it marked such a pivotal point in my adolescence. Like, from that point on, the experiences were out of this world. So I accidentally clicked my camera twice and it turned. And this is here. And if you know this painting, it's the Prince of Peace. I think I should tell you the story on why I even have this. So if you're interested in hearing any more of my stories, please feel free to let me know. Even if you don't, I think I might share it anyway. It's just very interesting. But as I said in the previous clip, this was a pivotal point in my life, and everything started coming out the fucking bag, okay? So, excuse my language. Oh, sorry. All right, stay tuned, I guess. Peace.
I'm going to go ahead and share another one of my experiences as a medium going to a haunted museum, because I have been to more than one. And you know, I had cancer. It tried to take me out, but I took it out before it could take me out. And then I also willingly go to haunted places as a medium. Natural selection keeps trying to come for me, but I just keep dodging it, you know. Knock on this particle wood desk. So the difference in this story, though, is that the place that I was going wasn't listed as like a haunted museum, but it was a true crime museum that was haunted. Anyway, I go to this place. I'm with my family. We took my grandparents there. And the reason I bring this up is because my grandfather is an enigma. He's like the Forrest Gump of true crime, in the sense that he kept intersecting paths with like notable people in true crime unintentionally. This man, when he worked in construction, he met Charles Manson when he was doing construction on the prison that Charles Manson was in. And the Zodiac was running around his hometown, you know, taking out people the same age as my grandfather at the time. So, and I promise this is not me bragging. This ain't nothing to brag about. But, you know, when you have this man visiting you in town and there's a true crime museum, if you have Forrest Gump in town and there's a shrimp museum, you're taking his tail there because that's where he belongs. So we take him. It's me, my older sister, and my grandparents. We go to this true crime museum. So when you first walk into the museum, one of the earliest sections is they have a bunch of memorabilia from like early circus shows where they exploited people who were born differently and had different things about them. But I was in the exhibit looking at all the historical photographs from the time. And at this point, I'm separated from my sister and my grandparents. They're off doing something. I don't know where they're at. But then my sister suddenly like runs into the room I'm in. She's like, "What?" And keep in mind, this is the same sister in the last story where I told her I needed to hit her, but I swore that it was the spirit in the room affecting me. I will stand by that because I know that's what it was. She was like, "No, you screamed my name like you were in trouble, like you were in pain, like something was happening." And I just kind of stare at her because I'm like, do I say something? Because as soon as we got into the museum, I saw a non-human entity, which I've talked about before on this page. Non-human entities are what they sound like. They're non-human, they don't look human, and they take many different forms, and they do many different things. And as soon as we had gotten into the museum, you know, you walk through this tunnel to get into the museum, and as soon as we got into it, I saw this long, black, non-human figure. But I ignored it because I'm with my family also, and if I paid attention to every single thing on the other side that I saw or happened to see in a given day, I would be constantly distracted. When my sister came and told me that she heard me screaming, I kind of logged that, and I was like, okay, maybe something is going on here, but I'm not going to really tell her yet. But we continue through the museum. And there's like a second floor of the museum, and it's all like pinball machines, like retro ones. And we go up there and I see the non-human entity again. Now, the first time I saw it, it was more so like a psychic impression, which the best way I can describe it is it's kind of like a feeling you get in your head and you kind of see it in your head, if that makes sense. It's very telepathic, and I hate describing mediumship as telepathy because that makes it sound all woo and everything when it's really not. It's just the brain. But when we go to the second floor, I see it like visually with my eyes. And I wasn't really scared of it because I've talked about it before, but like when you see things like this and you've seen it like your entire life, like the fear factor is gone, okay? But more so, I just can like recognize that something looks scary, but am I scared? No. But this thing, and this is going to be such a deep cut, but I don't know if y'all remember the animated Scooby-Doo movie where they get sucked into like a video game or something. There's this blue like zigzag villain that looks like a bolt of electricity that is like trapping them in this video game. That man was nightmare fuel when I was a child. But this black figure, it looked very similar to that. And it was very mischievous and just had kind of like a chaotic energy about it. Much like any given chihuahua. But again, I ignore him and I walk up the steps. And while I'm walking up the stairs to the third floor, I just get this feeling, I'm hit with like this knowing that this person causes people to trip on the stairs a lot. So I get to the third floor, and this is kind of where my sister, and my grandparents are reunited. And the third floor like has the bulk of like the really creepy stuff. And my grandma's one of those people, she will literally talk to anybody. So she was talking to the tour guide, you know, the person that worked there, you know, sharing her life story. And I got roped into it. We were talking about some things, and the tour guide looks at me and he goes, "So when is your grandmother gonna," and I'm not gonna say the word on here so I'm gonna get banned. And I just kind of stared at him because what do you do when a tour guide asks you when your grandmother is going to transition? Like, what do you say to that? But eventually I was like, well, I'm sorry, excuse me, what did you say? Poor guy, he goes, "Oh, I was asking where your grandma was from." At that point, it clicked with me because I knew dang well what I heard, and it clicked with me that this thing was kind of messing with my perception. I was deeply unhappy with the fact that this non-human thing invaded my personal space. I wanted to file some kind of charge. I wanted to take him to court. I was upset because that violated a boundary. But what can I do? Because Judge Judy doesn't practice beyond the veil now, does she? But to wrap this story up, we leave the museum, and it was just bothering me how active this thing was. I did not like it. I did not like its energy. It liked to sow chaos for the sake of sowing chaos. It did not care what happened just to do it. I sent the museum a DM on Instagram probably a few hours after I left. And I kind of just told them what I saw in there. I told them what I am, what I do, what I saw, what it was doing, all the impressions I got. And it was unsolicited. And looking back, and I've talked about this before, this was years and years ago. I'm more mature now. I would definitely ask permission before I just throw that on somebody. They didn't seem offended or anything, and they messaged me back, and they just kind of confirmed, oh yeah, we've been having a lot of problems.
Y'all, what would you do if the spirit that you thought was your grandfather started talking to you in your head? And then one day asked you if you believed it was the devil? Because one of my toxins emailed a story, and baby, I have not stopped thinking about it. And toxins, welcome back to my page where I don't spill tea, I brew coffee, and not everything that I serve is gonna be safe. Now, before y'all start typing, this is her story, and I'm sharing it because I know somebody listening has experienced something that they still can't explain. So this woman is from Belize, and she said that in Belize, Obeya is one of the things that's practiced, but through her ancestry, she also learned that her lineage also included hoodoo, voodoo, and other traditions. And earlier this year, she felt nudged to explore hoodoo because she wanted to connect with what she believes was the lighter sides of these practices. She got a couple of readings from mediums on TikTok as well, and both of them told her the exact same thing, and that was that she was tapped in, that she was a conjurer, and that she had gifts. Now, the first person that she thought of was a man that her mother had always told her was her grandfather from Belize. Now, here's where things started. One day, after cleansing her space and saying a short protection prayer, she decided that she was going to use a pendulum to connect. And immediately, a spirit answered. She started asking questions, trying her best to confirm whether it was really her grandfather, especially because she never truly knew him. And she said her mother left her in Belize as a baby with strangers instead of family. Now, at first, everything seemed okay. At least that's what she thought. Then, a couple of months later, y'all, a different spirit came through. He identified himself as a trickster spirit and even gave her a name, Mr. Wilkins. Wilkins came through. She said she got scared and ended the session as fast as humanly possible. She immediately texted the last reader that she had spoken to explain to him or her what had happened. And the reader suggested that they take a cleansing and then take a spiritual bath. She waited a couple of days and then she tried it again. Mr. Wilkins came back, y'all. And this time, he wouldn't leave, even when she asked him to. She said that instead of feeling scared this time, she engaged with him and asked him what he wanted. And he told her that her mother made him do it because she wouldn't leave him alone until he stopped her from talking to her grandfather. And this went on for days, y'all. She became frustrated because he simply refused to leave. Eventually, she was able to speak with her grandfather again, and she asked him about Mr. Wilkins. Her grandfather told her that Mr. Wilkins was a good man. Then Mr. Wilkins asked her grandfather to ask if he could become her guardian angel. She thought about it and then she agreed. Then her grandfather asked her if her mother could also become one of her guardian angels. And again, she agreed. But even then, she said she was still skeptical. I would have been too, because fuck that. And doing all of this, her grandfather began telling her that she was a powerful seer. He told her that he was going to teach her how to tap into her gifts. And honestly, she was excited about this. She wanted to learn. And there were some things that she found a little weird, but she kept going. Her grandfather tried coming to her through dreams, but she said she struggled with anxiety and she never really sleeps through the night. And when she does finally fall asleep, she's completely out. Then one night, something changed, y'all. She started hearing her grandfather talking to her as if he was linked directly to her. Then it wasn't just her grandfather anymore. It was Mr. Wilkins as well. Then her mother. The voices just kept coming, y'all. And then one weekend, everything took a turn. Her voice in her head became scary. It told her that it didn't like how she was living. And it started having her to do things that she said, honestly, she's too embarrassed to repeat. She became exhausted and she couldn't sleep until she obeyed what the voice wanted her to do. And the things that he instructed exactly the way he instructed it. She said she finally, after some time, fell asleep after midnight, only to wake up terrified because the voice began to say things that made her fear for her youngest son. Baby, a child already struggling with mental issues, the voice used that against her. And then the voice asked her if she believed that it was the devil. That shook her to the core. And even after that weekend, the voice remained it. It tried convincing her that it had all been a joke, but she didn't believe it anymore. She put away the pendulum and she stepped away from the practice completely. And even now, she still hasn't fully recovered from that experience. She said that she doesn't know what to make of it, and she doesn't know if it really happened. She doesn't know if it was spiritual, and she doesn't know if it was her own mind playing tricks on her because she wanted that connection with her grandfather so badly. Now, eventually, the voice finally went silent, but she still carries the fear. And she says she still wants to continue exploring her gifts, but she doesn't know if she can trust it. She said that she's even looked into finding a mentor, but everyone is so expensive and her finances are already stretched thin. So for now, she sticks to like the smaller things like prayers, a money jar, and she's trying to hold on to her faith while figuring out whether she'll ever feel safe enough to return to the practice. And honestly, the line that stopped me in my tracks was this. I don't know if all of this actually happened or if it was my own mind playing a cruel joke on me because I wanted that connection so badly. Because baby, I don't think this story is really about whether you are team spiritual or team psychological. I think this is about being human, wanting connection, wanting answers, wanting guidance, and then finding yourself an experience that changes the way that you trust your own mind. So if you're watching this, my advice to you is this. Don't rush yourself back into the spiritual practices because you missed who you were before it happened. Fear is information. So I want you to take it seriously. I want you to keep praying and I want you to keep grounding yourself. Spend some time out in nature. I want you to journal. I want you to reconnect with God if that's what you do. And whatever the way that feels safest to you, I want you to do that. And if those voices ever return or interfere with your sleep again, tell you to do things against your will, threaten you, or involve harm towards yourself or your children, please reach out to a licensed mental health professional immediately. Seeking help doesn't mean that you're not gifted. Protecting your mind doesn't mean that you're weak. And sometimes the most spiritual thing that you can do is choose your own peace. Now, toxins, what do y'all think happened here? I'm serving in black today, and I want y'all to drink from a clean source because this right here, I love stories like this. So keep sending them, and I will message you back because I have some things that I want to speak with you about directly. And I'll see y'all in the next video. I love y'all.
Let's talk about one of the most terrifying moments ever captured on Extra Normal, the 2010 possession of Laura Rivas. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Extra Normal, it is probably Mexico's most popular paranormal investigation TV show of all time, and it aired for about 17 years, beginning in 2007 and ending in 2024. Laura Rivas was one of the show's most well-known psychic mediums, and she would often join the crew in their investigations. During this specific incident, the crew was investigating El Panteón de Dolores located in Ciudad de Mexico. And not only was this panteón or cemetery one of the largest in Latin America, it was also the site of many occult rituals and works of witchcraft. So during this investigation, the crew was walking around taking photos and videos, and at the same time, they were interviewing the caretaker. And it would be during this conversation with the caretaker that we would notice Laura in the background feeling a little off.
De repente, Laura Rivas comenzó a sentir una opresión que la hizo perder el sentido. Lo que viene a continuación se explica sin palabras.
Laura. Sí, no tienes... ¿Sientes bien? Laura, escúchame. ¿Escuchas, Laura? ¿Sabes la puerta para abrir? ¿Sí me escuchas? Sí, por favor. Cálmate. Cálmate, Laura. Con cabeza, Laura. espérame, Laura. Cuidado. Cálmate, Laura. Cuidado, Laura. Cuidado, Laura, ya, escúchame, Laura. Laura, somos nosotros, Laura. Párate. Incorpórate, Laura, ven. ¿Qué pasó? Quiero volver.
Laura suddenly falls to the floor and begins to act as though she's not in control of her actions or her body. And after returning from what many people consider to be a brief possession, Laura describes feeling as though she was returning to life. Now, being that Laura is a psychic medium, it makes a lot of sense that she's more sensitive to spiritual energy. She was able to move past this incident and did continue to work on the show for years after. And following the years that she remained on the show, she continued to have experiences with spiritual attacks and dark entities, but never quite as intense as this experience. Laura did sadly pass away in July of 2024 due to health complications. And though many people were quick to speculate whether her death had anything to do with a spiritual attack of some kind, her family was quick to reject those ideas, which I'm very glad that they did. Let me know if you remember when this first aired, and let me know what you think happened that night.
Let's read some Bigfoot encounter stories. The fall of 1986, it was mid-October in northeastern Ohio. The time was approximately 3 a.m. I was on a Honda 650cc motorcycle going home after bartending. About 100 yards ahead of me, I clearly saw a tall, broad, hairy, upright, man-like creature cross the road from east to west. I slowed down as I approached the area, which was heavily wooded and extremely overgrown. There were deep ditches on each side of the road. I was in second gear going about 25 miles per hour as I passed the spot, when I saw the creature standing in the ditch looking directly at me. We were only about 6 feet apart. Its face was a combination of ape-like and Neanderthal, very human-like. It had a heavy brow ridge, dark eyes, a wide flat nose, a very wide mouth, and square teeth. It was smiling at me, which scared the living shit out of me. I gunned the bike, looking away and concentrating on controlling the bike. I looked back a couple seconds later, and the creature was running after me, still smiling. I drove as fast as I could for the next couple miles, feeling that it was still behind me, but I never looked. Unfortunately, I only lived about 5 miles from that spot, even less as the crow flies. My family owned 175 acres of mixed farmland and forested space north of the Grand River. It should not be hard to pinpoint exactly where my encounter was. I no longer have any attachments to the area, and it has since been built upon. I only wonder if the creature is still there. My wife does not remember all the details of her sighting, but her father once had a hunting cabin in Garrett County. According to her recollection, she was with her cousins and sister, so 3 girls and 2 boys, all of whom were between the ages of 12 and 16. They had gone hiking in the woods and had gone much further than usual. At some point, they found a stream and a small pond where they were splashing around in both, and they heard a scream. They said it was so loud and close by, her and her sister screamed also upon hearing it and reacting. Nothing happened for a while as they discussed what it was and what to do. Her oldest male cousin had them hurry up and leave. On the way back, they felt like they were being followed and heard sticks and branches being broken behind them. Once they were closer to the house, they stopped and looked back. My wife and her sister were sure they saw someone moving from tree to tree trying to hide from them. They told her father, and he said that people did use the land across between places. In the following days, they all felt watched in the woods and heard things at night around the cabin. The culmination happened on a sunny afternoon when as kids they were all playing in a field when my wife saw a huge dark figure in the tree line. As she watched it step out into the light about 50 or so yards away, she's not good with distance, so it was probably further. The thing, as she calls it, was huge and hairy. It had long brown red hair covering its body, massive shoulders like a football player,
and a wet dog smell. She screamed and pointed. When everyone looked at it and turned, it walked back into the woods. When all the kids told the adults, they packed up and left that day. After that, only her dad went back to the cabin during hunting season. I'm sure he knew something, but would never talk about it, and sold the cabin a few years later. We are both firm believers, but neither of us are looking to have anything to do with the creature that is obviously roaming around the forests of America. We were headed to my aunt's property in Lodi, California. We were in her RV and it was around 3:30 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I joined my aunt up front while she drove. We were on a desolate country road with no other cars or houses as far as you could see, just trees on the side of the road. Then the headlights illuminated a figure walking alongside of the road. The figure was tall, covered in dark hair, walking upright with its arms at its sides, and had a conical-shaped head. We both saw it, and even 30 plus years later, we both still remember it. Nobody is going to walk along that road in the middle of the night just hoping for someone to drive by. An account of a deputy sheriff in Oregon that had a favorite place he'd went to on and off for years. He was comfortably familiar with it, and it was easily accessible. One day at dusk, he dropped down over an embankment he'd been up and down many times. He turned to face the river and was surprised by a large male Sasquatch. It was very close. He shot back up over the embankment and started running back to his car. It followed. He made it to the car and sped away. Once he got to a safe place, he had a breakdown of emotions. The biggest were horror and confusion. To this day, he said the hardest thing to come to grips with is that the location wasn't deep in the Oregon woods. It was close to town. He's since relocated to Kansas. Let me know in the comments below if you have ever had a Bigfoot encounter. And of course, if you have a story that you would like me to share, feel free to DM me.
In Huntsville, Alabama lies a small park known as Maple Hill Park, but the locals have a very different name for it. That name is the Dead Children's Playground, and there's a very tragic yet understandable reason for why this park got that nickname. See, right next to the park is a cemetery, and in 1918, when the flu swept through the community, a lot of children unfortunately passed and were buried in that cemetery. And the locals have an understanding that those children who were buried in that cemetery come out at night and play in this very playground. This playground is also connected to another story of a serial killer in the 1960s who used it as his playground, where a lot of children apparently went missing there. This story is unconfirmed, but a lot of people hold it to be very true. Either way, there's a lot of tragedy that has happened in and around this playground. But for the most part, the locals understand that it is a fun place to spend your day in, but do not stay there at night. See, at night, that's when the vibes totally change. People say that if they're caught there at night, they feel tension. They feel like there's tons of eyes watching them. And the weirdest part about all of it is that they see this playground come alive when there's no living being on the equipment. See, come nightfall, people say they see the swings swing by themselves, the equipment moving, children laughing, and even the sound of footsteps running all around them, even if nobody's there. People who have dared to be there at night have taken pictures and caught strange things like orbs and mists on their camera. Yet, again, no one is around. I think one of the more disturbing narratives I've heard about this is that two different people said they saw a group of about 6 to 10 men dressed as monks walk through the park in the middle of the night and just disappear into a rock wall, never to be seen again. I don't know what that is. I don't know how that's connected. I mean, again, there is a cemetery that is literally right there, so maybe it's more than just the dead children playing in this playground, but who knows. So I want to know, have you been to this park? Would you go to this park? And would you swing at night with some of its regular visitors?
So I'm a part of a Reddit forum about my hometown, which people don't post on it a lot, but I saw a very interesting story on it and I wanted to read it. It's a little bit long, but if you're interested in scary stuff or paranormal stuff, this is definitely for you. It's titled Housesitting in Appalachia, which our town that I live in is like bordering
the Appalachian Mountains. Like, we are maybe like a 15-20 minute drive from the Appalachian Mountains, so we're like right there. I grew up in a town that was the next door neighbor of Appalachia, not quite considered to be a part of it, but close enough that weird and unexplainable things happened enough for them to be linked to Appalachia. It's a town where everybody knows everybody, and most people don't like to be outside after dark unless they're driving in their car going out. This happened 2 weeks ago. A couple who is friends with my mom was going on a beach trip with their kids, and they asked me to house sit for them. I do it a lot on the side when I'm not working my main job, and a lot of people in town know this and ask me to come house sit and sometimes dog sit. The first night, I got there after I was done with my main job at 5. I picked up some food for myself and brought it over to the house. I made myself at home, and once it began to get dark, I made sure my car was locked, I made sure the windows were locked and the curtains were closed, and I made sure the front door and the back door were both locked. The family had requested that I turn off the front porch light, which I didn't love the idea of because growing up, I was told it was how robbers knew someone was probably home. But I did it anyway. After I locked up the house, I took a hot shower and settled down on the couch to watch TV before bedtime. Everything was normal about 10:15 p.m. I was watching a movie when suddenly the screen went black. I figured the power had flickered, but the living room light and the kitchen light both stayed on. 3 seconds later, the TV turned itself back on, but instead of turning it on all the way, it was a gray screen. I grabbed the remote and tried to turn it off again, but it didn't work. The TV turned off and then on again completely by itself over and over again, despite my attempts to turn it off completely. Frustrated, I just unplugged the TV completely and went to bed. At 1:03, I woke up and I heard voices downstairs. The TV was on. I know it sounds impossible because I had unplugged it myself. I went downstairs and saw the TV on some random cable channel, and the weirdest part was that the plug for the TV was back in the outlet like it had never been unplugged in the first place. I convinced myself I had been half asleep and dreaming, but then I noticed the front door was cracked open. I know that I had locked it. I'm a 21-year-old girl who was house-sitting alone in a house I'd never been in before. Outside, the woods were still, no wind, no crickets, no frogs, nothing. People from around here know how strange that is. The mountains are never silent, and when they are, something bad is about to happen. I locked the door again and somehow managed to go back to sleep. The next morning, I found mud on the front stoop. It was trailed up the steps and stopped just short of the front doormat. That night was worse. Around 11, the dogs at the neighbor's house started barking. Then all at once they stopped. The silence was so sudden it felt wrong. A few minutes later, I heard 3 knocks on the front door. Slow, evenly spaced. I looked through the window, but I couldn't see anything because of the no porch light rule. But still, I went ahead and flicked the light on anyway, so I would be able to see who was there. But there was nobody. The woods beyond the front yard looked pitch black, like the darkness was even darker than normal. I went back inside. The TV was on again. But this time, there was something on the TV screen that wasn't just your normal show or movie. A shape. Not clear enough to identify, just a dark figure standing in the gray of the TV screen. I grabbed the remote and tried to turn the TV off, and this time it worked. I turned the TV around so the screen faced the wall, and I unplugged it yet again. Then I tried to go to sleep, but I was up until sunrise because I was too scared to sleep. The final night is the reason I will be thinking about this for a long time now, and why I decided to post this story. At 10 p.m., the TV clicked on by itself again. Then off, then on, then off, like someone was testing it. Then the house started creaking. Not random settling noises, but footsteps, one side of the house to the other, back and forth, back and forth. I called my dad and asked him what to do, and he told me to find a flashlight and a knife and check every room in the house, and that if I told him to, he would call 911 for me. I checked the house, but there was nothing. I told my dad I didn't find anyone or anything, and he reassured me that it must be the noises of the house settling. So I hung up the phone with him and tried to calm myself down. As I came back down the hallway, I noticed something propped up on the floor against the wall, beside the front door. A photograph. An old black and white family picture that had been hanging there this entire time I had been staying at this house. Except now it was sitting on the floor beneath the nail. The glass wasn't broken. It looked like someone had carefully lifted it down and placed it there. That's when I noticed something. At the far edge of the photo, standing among the trees behind the family, was a man. It was a man I didn't recognize, a man that looked like he didn't exactly belong in an old photograph of the family of the husband and wife who owned the house. He wasn't facing the camera. He was facing the house, just staring. When I looked up, every light in the house was out except for the glow of the television. And this time, the figure in the static looked clear, tall, thin, standing motionless, facing directly toward me. Then the screen went black. The power came back on a second later. Everything was normal. The TV was off. The house was quiet. I ended up telling the husband and wife about everything that happened, and they did not believe me exactly, but they said they weren't quite sure what to make of it because nothing like that had ever happened to them. When I told my dad what happened at lunch last Sunday, he asked me, "You said you heard 3 knocks?" I nodded. He told me that when he was a boy and he lived in Tennessee, one of his relatives told this old folklore story about how if you heard 3 knocks at your door after dark and nobody was there, you should never answer it. Not because someone wanted in, because something wanted you to know it had already been there. I canceled my house-sitting job that's scheduled for 2 weeks from now, and now I'm too scared to do it again. When I'm using my TV at home, I get worried that it will do the same thing again and the man in the photograph will come back. I'm sure I will get over it eventually, and one day I plan on living far away from the Appalachian Mountains, but for now, I think about it every day, and I've told all my friends and parents everything that happened. Everyone knows stuff like this happens in Appalachia, but it never gets less scary or less surprising to hear. I wanted to know if anybody else in this area had similar experiences, considering we're not quite in Appalachia, but close enough for stuff like this to still happen. So that's creepy. Yeah, just in case anybody was interested in getting scared shitless tonight.
Hi, so I have not been on lately to give my haunted ghost stories because I was on vacation for my 40th birthday. My husband surprised me by taking me to Boston, so that was super fun. But now I'm back, and I couldn't wait to tell you guys some more ghost stories. So this one that I'm going to share is not spooky, but it's super fun and really sweet. So my sister died 5 years ago. And anytime I have dreams about her in heaven, she's at the beach. And right before she passed away, she purchased a place in Florida. And she didn't really get to use it because she passed away too soon. Our happy place is any beach. So my mom and my sisters and my niece and I would go to the beach anytime that we could. So I think that her heaven is at a beach somewhere. I really think that that's where she is residing until I get to see her again. So a couple years ago, it was the first birthday after my sister had passed away, and of course it was a rough one. It's like just the passing of time, right? And I missed her terribly. Anyway, my husband asked me what I wanted for my birthday. This was a couple years ago, and I said sunshine. I just want to sit by the pool and peace out and just enjoy a sunny pool day with my kids. Well, as luck would have it, weather looked terrible that day, and it was like the next couple days were just supposed to be rainy, and I was really bummed. So that kind of stunk. Well, anyway, the day came, my birthday came, and it was supposed to be a super rainy day, and I took the kids, and the skies parted, and it was the most beautiful sunny birthday ever, and we spent the day at the pool. I was so excited because it was really unexpected, and literally my husband said, "If you could pick anything you wanted for your birthday, what do you want?" And I said, "Sunshine, give me a day at the pool." So we spend the day at the pool. I come home, and there's a package on my front porch. And it's from Etsy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody sent me a birthday present. This is so fun. So the kids and I run up to the porch and bring it in the house. And there's no return address. It just says my name. And we open it up, and it's a jar. And I still have the jar. I'll have to go get it to show you guys. But it's a jar, and it says Florida Sunshine. And I'm like, this is hilarious. Like, I literally asked for sunshine for my birthday. So I thought, oh my gosh, my husband's adorable. I can't believe he figured this out. I literally had just told him this. So I call him at work, and he has no idea what I'm talking about. He didn't buy it. He didn't have a clue what I was talking about. So then I posted on my socials, and I'm like, hey, who sent me this jar? It says Florida Sunshine. Jar of Florida Sunshine. Somebody sent me sunshine on my birthday, and it would have to be somebody who knows me really well because I love the pool. And then I'm like, Florida Sunshine. So I call my husband, and I'm like kind of emotional at this point because it was like the first year after my sister had passed away. And I had literally said, I just want sunshine. And I'm getting a jar of sunshine. It has sand in it. And it said Florida Sunshine with the sand in it. And I'm like, my sister's in heaven. And I asked for sunshine for my birthday. So I'm like, okay, this can't be real. So I check the socials. Nobody claims it. Nobody says that they have a clue what this is. So then I'm like, you know what? I can be sleuthy. So then I open the box, and there's like the address where it was ordered from, this Etsy company. So I messaged the Etsy company and they're like, hey, yeah, we totally have those. We mail them out every day. So I sent him my address and I said, when did you send this and who sent it? They had no record of anyone sending it to me. He was the person who sent it and he had zero record of who sent it to me. Weird. So I called my husband again. I'm like, listen, this has to be you. My husband is an incredibly romantic person. He said, Emma, you told me that you wanted sunshine yesterday. How could I have sent that from an Etsy person in Florida for it to arrive the very next day? It's impossible. It's impossible. The Etsy person had no record of whoever sent it, and they had no record of it going out at all. The only dream I ever had of my sister, since she has passed away, she was putting together an apartment beside the beach. And there was this giant bay window, and I couldn't see outside of the window because it was too bright. And in my dream, I knew that it was heaven, and I knew that it was the beach was outside. And she was in like this flowy muumuu, and she was decorating her apartment. And she handed me the phone, and she said, here, call Mom. And so I called my mom, and my mom said, well, how is she doing? And I looked at Lisa, and I said, my sister, and I said, Mom wants to know how you're doing. And my sister said, tell her that it's sunny every day, the water's always 75, and people are in and out of the water all day long. It's perfect. It's heaven. So anyway, that's my sister's beachy story about how I think she sent me sunshine from heaven on my first birthday after she passed away. I miss her so much. I still have the sandy sunshine in my nightstand. And it was something that I've never been able to figure out. I have no idea where it came from, but I'm pretty sure it was my sister.
Morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm just going to try something different here today. I want to share a story about when I was growing up. It's a haunted house story, and it was the house that I grew up in, and it happened to me personally. And this actually happened. I'm not just making this up. This was something that I lived through when I was a kid. Anyways, I grew up in a small town called Meacham here in Saskatchewan, and our house was made up of two different houses. Both houses were on a farm, and they were moved onto the lot, and they were built together as one. One was low, and that was the big kitchen, and then the other part was the living room, and the basement was under the living room, and then there was a upstairs, and my bedroom was right in the middle of where these two houses joined. And one night I was lying there in bed. I don't even know what I was doing, but I was younger. I was probably 8 or 9, and we had one of those big ass radios, the cabinets with the, you flipped open the top, and record player and radio and that. And at that time we had a CKOM, I think it was, AM station. That's all we could get, and it was playing some kind of rock music. I can't remember the song, but it was playing in the background in the living room. And I'm just kind of sitting there listening to it. And then in our kitchen, all of a sudden I hear the taps start dripping, like drip, 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 which isn't that uncommon. That happens to taps. And it was a very creaky house. You couldn't go anywhere in that house without knowing where everyone was. And so I started hearing footsteps, and like creak, 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 and I couldn't see out into the kitchen. So I'm like, well, who the heck is coming towards my room? So I get up and I look, and no one's there, but I'm watching the floor, and I'm listening to the creaking going like right to me, and then right past me into the living room, and then the muffled creak from the carpet, like creak, 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 all the way over to the stereo. And then all of a sudden, just bzzz, like the radio just instantly cut to opera. And I didn't even know we had an opera station, but and loud as hell, like just like blaring loud and opera music. Also, my brothers, I can hear them yelling from their bedrooms upstairs. They're like, "What is going on? Who changes the station?" I'm like, I had nothing to do with it. And that was the creepiest thing. Like, there's lots of things that happened in that house, but that was I was literally watching these steps coming towards me, walk by, go to the radio that was against the wall, and just change to opera music and blaring really loud. So that's one of my ghost stories that happened to me growing up here in Saskatchewan. And yeah, I'm interested to hear about other people's paranormal experiences, or experiences that you can't explain. I just love reading and hearing these stories. I just watched one from this morning, Lady in Regina, and that just got me thinking, hey, I should share my stories, because they're creepy, they're kind of cool. So anyways, thanks for sticking around listening. I just thought I'd share that, and yeah, if you got any stories, let me know. All right, have a great Tuesday, everyone, and we'll talk to you later. Bye for now.
Let's look at some scary pictures that you guys sent me. This was taken about 10 to 15 years ago. We were shooting for a vape company and used my mom's house to incorporate the brick in the background. After looking at the photos, my mom had to bring a priest to bless the house because it felt so heavy. My cousin wanted to put her car up for sale and was out walking in the woods when her husband asked her to take some photos of the car to add to the listing. She took the pictures and continued her walk and then went home. When she got home, her husband asked if she'd looked back at any of the pictures that she took. She said no and asked him why, thinking there was damage to the car that she hadn't noticed. But instead, he told her to look at the last picture again and to zoom in on the background.
So listen to me. So listen to me.
One of my friends a few years ago got invited to a party in the Hollywood Hills. They were a photographer at the time, and the person who invited them just wanted snippets of the private event. The dress arrived the same day as the party. There was no name, no details. It was just a location. And as my friend got to the place, they said that it was like a hotel. It wasn't really a home. It was massive. There was huge gates. There was valet parking. There was tons of security, but they said that it was pretty easy to get into this party, and they were a little confused about that. Like, they didn't check like a license. They didn't check for any background info. They literally just asked for his name, saw it on the list, and they let him in. When he got into the party, he said there was maybe like 100 people there. Actors, musicians, influencers. He said that he definitely recognized a few people right off the bat. Something they noticed about this party as well is the phones were intact. Everybody had their phones. It wasn't taken away. And everybody was drinking, talking, taking lots of pictures. But they noticed that nobody was really on social media posting these pictures. Another detail that seemed odd was he noticed that there was clocks everywhere. They were on the walls, they were on the tables. He figured that it was like part of the theme or some kind of party decor, but every single time on the clocks was 11:17, like exactly 11:17. He went and checked his phone and he noticed that it was 1:43 a.m. and there was a lady at the party who came by him and she said they never really changed them. And that was that. She walked away. 2 a.m. rolls around and my friend is going to look for a bathroom. They're going down hallways. They're getting a little lost because it's a huge place. And they find this hallway they're going down is a large corridor, it's huge. And they notice that there's these frames up on the wall. And as they're looking at the pictures while they walk down, they notice that it is a picture of the same room in every single picture. The only differences in these pictures were the people in it. It was different decades, different faces, different clothing, but the time remained the same. Every single party had a clock in it, and it was at 11:17. As he was staring at these pictures, a man came behind him, and he said, "Hey, you shouldn't be down here." And when my friend turned around, he said that he was wearing like a suit. He looked like the owner of the house. And the man asked him, what date do you think that picture was taken? And so my friend looked back at the frame and they noticed that there was a date that said 1964. And the guy nodded. And then he told me, what about that one? And we went down all of the photos. There was one that was like 1988. Another one was 2007. But the weird part is the room never changed. It never got updated. It was the same furniture, same wallpaper. Even some of the people in it, the faces, were familiar, like they were out in the party that was currently happening. Not every single person, but a few. My friend turned around and they said that's impossible because the people looked the exact same in the 1988 picture as they looked upstairs when I was talking to them. And then the man said, what time is it? And so my friend went to pull out his phone and he said that his phone was completely dead, like black screen, wouldn't turn on. And the man said, that's what I thought. Someone came and they escorted my friend back upstairs. Nobody was rude, but they did get him out of the hallway. As he was being walked out, somebody let him know that his services were no longer needed. They were smiling, they weren't rude about it. But they took him back out to the valet and he drove home. It was about a 20-minute drive. This is where it gets really strange though, because they arrived home and his roommate was there waiting and he said, hey, like, I've been calling you. And they seemed really stressed. And my friend was like, what's the problem? Like, my phone died. I'm so sorry. And the roommate let him know, you've been gone for 3 days. My friend charged his phone, and when he turned it back on, he noticed in the camera roll that there was the last picture that he took of the night, and it was at 11:17 p.m., 3 days earlier. The craziest part is when he was looking at the photographs down the hallway, he noticed the very last one was decades earlier, sure, but he noticed that there was a guy in the back that looked an awful lot like him, and he was staring straight at the camera. That's the picture that he was staring at so intently when the guy came behind him and told him that he was not supposed to be in the hallway. Nobody has proof that my friend is telling the truth on what he was saying, but I definitely believe him.
So I've lived in like the foothills of Appalachia. I guess it's still considered like Appalachian Mountains, like my whole life, on and off. So I lived here till I was like 19. No, I was 21 when I moved. Between 19 and 21. And I moved and I came back this past year. And I always hear people talking about like folklore and like skinwalkers and like crazy stuff. And hold on, it's trying. It cut me off. It was trying to post my other video. Sorry, I look rough from that osteoma removal surgery. I did get all the results back and everything was negative, which I figured it would. But anyway, so I always hear people telling like scary stories about the Appalachian Mountains. And I mean, I have a few myself I would love to share on here. So one night I was like probably like 21 years old. I had gone out to Iron Thunder with a couple of friends and I was driving home and it was a full moon and it was just a quirky night. Like weird stuff had, kept happening and I wasn't like a big drinker or anything. So we had just gone and I wasn't drinking or anything. And there was like, I came up on a car just parked in the middle of the road with all 4 doors open, lights on, no one to be found. It was just like right in the middle of a main road here. So I went around it, kept going. Oh, and earlier that night, this like drunk biker had laid his bike down in front of us, like on the way home as well. So I thought that was really odd. But when I got almost to the road I lived on, I'll never forget. It's the first time I'd ever seen like a straight up ghost before. Like I'd seen weird shit happen, but like this was like plain as day. So it's about, I don't know, between midnight and 2 a.m. And there's 2 little kids walking to the left of me on the side of the road. And you can see straight through them. They were completely translucent and they were holding hands. They were probably about 7, 8 years old. And you could just completely see through them. And I drove past them. And as I went past them, you could still see through them, like the whole way down the road. And I was just like, I got home and I was like, I'm not drunk. Like, I'm not fucked up. Like, what is going on? And I remember like waking my mom up and being like, I just saw 2 kids walking down the road and like, they looked like ghosts. And she was like asleep, half asleep, and like brushed it off. But I remember the next morning she like busted in my room at like 7 a.m. She was like, we should have called the police. But I'm sure people see stuff like that around here like all the time, honestly. But I thought that was pretty crazy. But I've got some good stories I'm going to throw out here.
Trigger warning though, I did look up to see if any children had died near here, and there was one weird story. I don't know if it could have been them, but there was a woman that like killed all her kids and buried them in her couch, and it was a true story. It was like super fucking weird. Hopefully it wasn't them. God rest their souls.